Whoa, this is crazy. So, we just received the news yesterday that Trump striked Venezuela. So, I'm going to talk about it. Before we get into the kind of grid of the episode, let's just take a moment to say a quick prayer just in our hearts for the people that are suffering right now. So, I'm going to give my take on this. And, people are suffering, right? But I think a lot of people are taking this a little bit out of context, taking it, going a little bit over the top, a little bit out of control. I actually have, my famous little book here with my notes. I have a full structure here for this episode because I want to make sure I get these points right. I want to make sure I'm not going to, or obviously no matter what I say, I'm going to offend people, but try and make this as respectful as possible, and instead of going all apocalyptic mode because this situation happened, I'm going to be a little bit more calm with it and try and give you guys some perspective in terms of what's happening, why it's happened, what are the reasons behind it, and what implications it can have for the future. So we saw this, that Trump, he sent out bombs and bombed Venezuela and captured their president, Maduro, who, first of all, is a terrible person, right? Who knows what crimes he's done, but obviously he's in there because he's only elected because he cheated, and it's very obvious that he did. It's a lot more clear over there. But I think the point that kind of pissed people off is it's the obvious reason, right? Your own government has problems, and instead of focusing on that, you're focusing on some other government, and it's just weird, right? It's weird. So I'm gonna go over it. I'm gonna go through the facts, make sure it's only fact based. I'm gonna do my best to not add any extra kind of conspiratorial arguments. I'm gonna go over the facts, and I'm going to give my take as to what's happening and what I think about the whole situation. So, here's some very important things. China removed their silver from Venezuela a couple of days before it actually happened. Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, I'm sure he's very, he's very well known, right? Visited the White House a couple of days before as well. Now, even a person like me who tries his hardest to avoid the political scene, to avoid any of these news and crazy stories like this, even I couldn't get away from this because it was such a big thing. But the fact that you see that these other countries are involved, it tells me that this, they knew it was happening. It's not like conspiratorial. Maybe they're not conspiring against it, but they knew it was happening. China pulled their silver because they were certain that something like this would happen. Maybe there were talks in the background about something like that. But the point is, there's, it's the power dynamic, right? It's the fact that, no one's actually for you, right? Everyone's just conspiring against it. And, then you decide, okay, let's strike this country, right? But China knows about it. Israel probably knows about it. And I think Russia also probably knows about it already before it actually happens. And they're more so allies of Venezuela than the U.S. are, and that's obviously why, part of the reason why this stuff's happening. It's all this, geopolitical kind of just confrontations within the nations, and it's very clear that a lot of people knew this was going to happen before it happened. That's what I'm saying there. Why would we do this, right? It's not a smart decision. I think it's not even an opinion. I think it's just true, just straight up. It's not a smart decision. Because with all the other problems in the U.S., with all the other problems and wars all around the world, to go and, start something else in another country, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I've heard arguments about, money and oil and, trying to spark this patriotism thing. Some people say that there's a lot of oil in Venezuela, so Trump's just being, a little bit forceful, and he wants to, get the money from them. Or people are saying, he's just doing this as, a play, to prove that America is strong and take over and stuff like that, even in, colonization, whatever, to exert America's power over the other countries on the other side of the world that are, China and Russia are doing better economically than America. So maybe he's tried to find a way to do that, right? To make America seem more powerful. and to give America more influence by taking over this country and taking their oil and having more money and also having more resources and I don't know, having that patriotism that's like, yeah, we did it, right? We were able to take over a country. We know how that goes. We saw Iraq, we saw Afghanistan. We know absolutely where those types of ideas end up at the end of them being fully exhausted. And he said that he's going to take over the country, right? He's literally going to put troops on the ground and he's going to, I don't know what he's planning on doing to make Venezuela a better place, but it's like you can see all these things. My personal opinion is that all this stuff comes about, I think, as a distraction. I think it is just a distraction technique. Trump's very good at that, right? He's very good at the weave, right? He calls it himself the weave. Like just take people's minds off of the initial point and then, maybe bringing it back super far into the future or trying not to bring it back to the initial point at all. That's what he does, right? I think it's a distraction from the fact that Ukraine and Russia is still going on, Israel Gaza is still going on, Iran is probably going to start something else, China's still a threat. It's a distraction. All the situations going on in Africa, right? It's a distraction from the fact that America hasn't actually helped stop any of the wars. Like they're still going on. It's still fully in the midst of the battles, and many people are still dying each and every day. It's not really slowing down. That's what I think it is. It's a distraction from that fact to take people's minds off of that and say, like it goes back to the kind of like the patriotism. Oh, if America can take over Venezuela, that's a win, right? Because they've proven that they're strong. But have they? Have they? Because look at all these other situations still going on around the world that Trump said that he would be the person to try and fix. You had these Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize for Trump, and it's like my opinion is it's like if he had negotiated ends to those wars, then sure, give it to him. That's my opinion. It's like you deserve it, but he hasn't. Has he even tried? I'm not even 100% certain of that. But he's definitely in Israel's pocket. Obviously, we all know that, right? And it's sad. It's sad to see that this is what's happening, right? This is where we have come. That it's like, it's the geopolitical scene where you are bombing places just to make a scene, just to be distractive, dismissive of other situations going on. It becomes like a tactical game when it's like war shouldn't be a tactical game because we're dealing with the lives of people. A good point that is probably, a good piece of mind to you is that nobody died, right? In the strikes in Venezuela, nobody died. So that's a good thing. I think maybe that further proves the point that it was more so just, noise, right? Just to distract, just to take people's minds off of the millions of people dying all around the world from wars and problems, right? No one died. So I think that also just kind of, moves it a little bit further in that type of an idea that it is just kind of like a distractive thing. It's just to be loud and noisy. No one actually died. People's lives weren't lost, which is a positive of it. But I still think the implications of it just don't make a lot of sense. Because it's like, I'm just going to, I have it in my notes a little later down, but I'm going to talk about this right now. That Donald Trump has proven the truth about politics. That he's the guy that was supposed to come in. He was the outsider. The establishment is causing all these problems, all this war and stuff. Let's come in and let's fix it. Let's come in from the outside and let's bring a new perspective in. And we've seen that just hasn't been the case. It just hasn't been the case. There's been a lot. Maybe there's been some good things. I think it's maybe blown so far out of proportion because that's what the left do. He has done some good things, but he's done a lot of things that perhaps a lot of people didn't really vote him in for. And he's kind of had all these ideas that no one really even realized that he was going to do. So it's like it's a little bit sad that he is also he's around, Israel have him, grabbing him by the throat, probably because of Epstein, probably because there's something on him and they have the leverage. So he has to do exactly what Israel say or they're giving him money or something like that, right? And I think that's very clear, the way that Netanyahu and him are conspiring a little bit. So it's sad to see that he is just like everyone else. Me personally, I was fooled. I thought that he would have been the guy to fix things because in 2016 he did pretty well. Like despite the narrative and despite all this crap, he did majority of what he kind of said he was going to do. This time around, he's done some good things, but for the most part it's been a lot like, and this strike just kind of proves the point that it's like that's like why? Like why even do it? Like is he listening too much to the people around him? Are the people around him kind of the real slimy snakes, or is he just kind of, you know, nonchalant to it? He just doesn't really care and he's not really morally there, or I don't know what the situation is, but it proves my entire philosophy about politics is true, that nobody is there for you. That's why I personally don't follow it, because I realize that it's just a waste of time to just sit here and debate. And it's just to sit here and emotionally, destroy people with emotional arguments about something that really, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't affect you. That's why I personally stay away from it, but obviously it's just such a big thing that it's come up, so that's why I'm going to talk about it. But he has proven the exact point. His exact case study is the exact point that, sure, he's framed himself as an outsider, but it's all just a game. It's all just a facade, and he's a part of it, which is unfortunate, right? Maybe he's a little bit on the better end in comparison to other people, but he's still just as bad. And it's so sad to see that this is what's happening. I hope for the sake of the Venezuelan people that they actually do a good job, like that they actually get people on the ground, they arrest lots of drug cartels, and they keep the city safe, and they get a guy in there to run the country that's actually competent. I hope for their sake that things actually go well for them. That's why I started the podcast with a prayer, to pray for them that things do go well. I'm not going to pray that, like, because like I pray that they don't fall into war, that they don't get involved in, like, terror and death and destruction of their country, of their great country. You have to also look at the other side. Maduro is a terrible person. Like, he runs drug cartels, he cheated to get into the election, he doesn't care about the people, right? But it's the question of, it's like, why are you so focused on this guy and you can arrest him, but your own problems that are still going on in your own country you haven't yet tackled yet. You haven't defeated them yet. You haven't defeated the internal fentanyl crisis and the internal, like, from Mexico, things getting shipped into the country and all this stuff. It's just it's just because it's all so weird. It's all so weird, the priorities of American investigations and what they're actually focused on. It's weird to see that you'd rather, like, kind of focus on this than to focus on your own internal problems. And that's what a lot of people are saying, and I agree with that. There's some things a lot of people are saying that I don't necessarily agree with, but that I can definitely say is just weird. Like, it's just weird. Why? Why do it? I've tried to give some examples, and I think the distraction technique's the biggest one. But, hopefully it's not at the expense of the Venezuelan people, that maybe things actually do go well for them. So that's why I say the prayer, right? Let God do what he must in the lives of these people, because, well, people in power aren't going to do anything because, again, as I said before, they don't care about you. They don't care about the people. They care about their own internal greed and whatever, like their own successes, their own power. And it's all kind of like this one big game between China and Russia and America, and whoever comes out on top, it's like that'll be what we have to deal with for decades, right? If China really does, defeat America, right? Whatever, economically ruin America. What are we gonna do with literal dictators in power? What are we gonna do, right? As democratic nations, or supposedly democratic nations, what are we gonna do with that? With basically communist China in power? I don't know. I don't know what those implications are. So yes, rethink your political ideologies. If you're still the type of person that is picking a side, neither side is going to help you. Neither side is going to help you do better. The only thing that's going to help you improve in your life is just to focus on you, what you're dealing with. If things affect you, then you have to, adapt and improve, improvise, adapt, overcome certain situations if it's political things that are affecting you. But know that, for the most part, people in power don't care about the average person. And it's sad that that's the reality, but it really is. And the second you make, it becomes emotional, right? it's just a waste of time, and then it causes turmoil in families and friendships, and it destroys. That's why I try and stay out of it. But unfortunately, because so many people just put their entire ideologies on political views, it's hard for me to stay out of it. But I'm going to keep trying to stay out of it, and I'm just going to kind of end this whole political spiel right there, just kind of put a real period on that that Trump is the ultimate case study, that even the guy that was the outsider saying that he'd come in and do things differently isn't really doing things differently. There are some things he's doing differently, sure, but a lot of, the same problems we've seen from the early 2000s, from the 2010s, are kind of just being repeated. It's just with a different name. And it sucks that he's not doing more to prevent stuff like this from happening. I hope that things go well for the Venezuelan people, and that all these other wars can eventually stop, and that things do not get out of hand. But it is sad to kind of see, his hand has been shown, right? And even the guy that got shot for his beliefs, and there was the whole narrative, and it's like, is it all fake? Maybe it might all be fake, right? And that's a reality I'm slowly trying to come to terms with, but it's true that he's just kind of seeming to be like everyone else, as much as he says that he's not. So one more thing I'm going to say is that people are kind of getting crazy. They're going crazy about World War III. There's going to start a war. Everything's going to go to crap, and the countries are going to turn on each other, and everything's going to, calm down, right? Calm down. First of all, nobody died in the strike. I think it is a distractive thing. It's not necessarily to start any beef. It's to take the average person's mind off of the fact that things are still wrong in other countries that America hasn't helped and dealt with. But if there's a war, it's not going to be because of this. So, war, it's a big threat. World War III, it's clearly a real threat, but it's been a threat for years. If it happens, it'll happen probably with Iran and Israel in the Middle East. That will probably cause something. Way more than this Venezuelan situation will. My personal opinion, but you need to be vigilant, weary, but also not panic. Don't just spiral out of control. Control yourselves. Stay grounded. Keep your emotions in check, because it's not over. The wars won't start, at least not right now. Although, are the chances higher? Maybe, perhaps. But you need to not just kind of spiral out of control and just go crazy because you think that everyone's going to die, that someone's going to launch a nuke. It's not going to happen yet. It's not going to happen yet. Maybe soon, if things continue to get bad. But again, vigilant and weary, but not out of control. Don't start panicking just yet. Continue to focus on the things that you need to focus on in your life, rather than, it's all noise. 99% of all this political drama is noise. Like the China, Russia against America thing is noise. The stuff in the Middle East, probably less of it's noise and more of it's real. But with this Venezuelan situation, I think it is more so distraction, noise, than it actually is the initiating of a brand new war. That's my opinion. Could be completely wrong. I could be humbled from it. But I think it's an important message to, instead of just coming out of control, right? It's like, I've heard people say that, oh yeah, so he's going to bomb Venezuela, so he'll bomb other countries as well because he's just going to take over the world. No, that's not going to happen, right? That's definitely not going to happen. So just calm down, right? Calm down, because we still have our lives. We're still here. Give the glory to God that we are still here. We still have the chance to do better. Instead of wasting your time arguing and fighting over political debates and beliefs and opinions, instead focus on what you got, what you can continue to do. What you can continue to do to improve as a person, to grow, to be stronger, to make some money and make a name for yourself, so that if these situations happen, you have the highest chance to flee and get out of it. And also just because a lot of it's noise, not a lot of it's actually true. So you have to understand that when it comes to politics, that's absolutely the case. So, everything happens for a reason, right? Stay calm, stay relaxed. I personally don't think World War III will happen anytime soon, but that could be me just being a little bit ignorant. I absolutely understand that. But that's just my personal opinion. I'm not an economist. I'm not a freaking specialist in geopolitics because I try and stay away from it. But based on what I've seen, what I've heard, how I've kind of I've actually watched a lot of stuff regarding this situation, so I have a certain idea as to what's actually happening. Unlike certain other wars, obviously the Middle East is just this crazy, just this crazy blob of a mess, really. But for this specific thing, I read a lot about it. So I'm saying that after what I've seen, I think what I'm saying makes sense. That it's not this dictator, he's bombing stuff because he wants to take over the world. No, it is a guy that's doing this as a distraction technique from the fact that he's failed in other aspects, and also back to the fact that it proves that politics is exactly what I've been saying it is for the longest time. That it is just a big game, a big facade. Everyone just says stuff to say stuff. The media tries to propagate whatever it's paid to propagate and whatever it's paid to say, just to convince the person that one guy is better than the other. When in reality, they're all evil. Every single person in there. Maybe there's a couple of good people that are trying their best but can't do it. But 90% of people in politics are not there for the benefit of the common person. They're there for themselves, they're there for the power. So understand that a lot of it is down to that. This whole situation is down to that. Other situations are down to that. So I think the biggest message is the message I started this podcast with, by just praying. The more people pray, God's will, he'll work it in the beautiful way, because God appreciates people's prayers, and the power of prayer is real. It's a real thing. So the more people pray for the people of Venezuela, the people in the Middle East, the people in Ukraine, the people going through war and turmoil and death each and every day, the more people pray that it eventually ends, it will end soon. And if you continue to hope, the more people hope, the more that eventually these people will be saved from their sorrows. I truly believe that, and I think the good will prevail in the end. So stay positive to that fact. That as much as there is a lot of evil, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of just crazy things happening in this world. This really is like just cuckoo land world right now we're living in. It's a crazy time. So just stay calm and stay grounded and pray for those that are suffering, that their suffering may end one day. And God will be gracious enough to grant that. I truly believe that. And regardless of what happens, these people, they'll be judged in the end, right? They will be judged for their wrongdoings when it's all over. And God will judge righteously. So focus on that rather than focusing on all the negativity, all the war, all this kind of stuff. Focus on praying for those that truly need the strength of prayer. I think that's the ultimate message I have for that. So understand that this isn't the initiation of World War III. This is just a distraction thing. And understand that God will work in the way that he must in the end for the good of all of those that believe on him. I think that's a good message. I think I'll leave you with that. It's a super emotional thing, so I don't want you to be so emotional with it. I'm trying my best to be as impartial as possible, but obviously, maybe I went too far on some things. Apologies for that. I'm just a dude that's trying to, give some grace and give some important comments to that fact of what's actually happening here. In a way that, in a way and in a light, in a direction that a lot of people don't necessarily go in. Because the first thing when you see bombs is, the world's going to end, right? Obviously, that's natural reaction, right? The first thing you see is going to be death and all of the problems that come with it. But instead of seeing that, see that it's an opportunity to pray for those that are suffering. It's an opportunity to help those that are truly in need, and truly send out your prayers and your hopes to God for him to act in the way that he must. I think it's a better thing, and I think it's a much better place to come at every situation rather than with, the hatred and the resentment, the bitterness, the negativity that these political situations bring about naturally, because that's what politics is. Just give the glory to God and give the strength to God and let God do what he is so good at doing, which is making it glorious for his name. And all will be judged in the end. So all of these evil, corrupt politicians, when they die, because they will, at some point, their reigns of terror will end. God will judge them, and he will be righteous in the righteous way that, their fruits will be seen. Most of their fruits are not seen by us, the common person. But everything is seen by God. So just understand that. that in times of turmoil, the best thing is to pray for peace and to be a peacemaker. Not a peacekeeper, but a peacemaker. There's a lot of people that are not peacemakers, they're war makers, but it's up to each and every one of us as individuals to be peacemakers. So that's my message, the ultimate message regarding this whole situation, and that's where I stand with the Venezuelan strikes, with these issues going on. So pray for the Venezuelan people, pray for the people in the Middle East, that things don't go out of hand. And that's how I'll leave you off. So thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think. Give me your opinions. However hostile you might be towards me now that I've spoken out things in political light, which obviously causes hostility no matter how impartial I try to be. Be rude. I invite you to be rude and hate in the way that the people on the internet, the parasocial people on the internet know how to do. And I'll be glad to see that people are still falling into the same things. But the more people that I can hopefully bring to the light, bring to the truth of the matter, the better. So that's why I talk about these things. So thank you for watching this video. Subscribe if you're new. Subscribe if you enjoyed. There's plenty of other content completely unrelated to politics that are probably a lot less deeper and more beneficial to you, self-help for you. So go watch those videos. There's plenty of other good ones on this podcast. Follow if you're watching on Spotify. And I'll see you tomorrow for the next episode.